Hello everybody and welcome back to Typical City. It's decision time for Kyle Walker. Bayern Munich or Manchester City. He has to make a decision and it's an imminent decision that we should find out in the next few days, you like to think, with rumours that Pep Guardiola is yet to sit down with Kyle Walker and have a conversation about City's prospects and how that may include Kyle Walker. And the conversations have already taken place with Bayern Munich. And is Kyle Walker the best right back the Premier League's ever seen? It's a hotly discussed debate. I'm not convinced he is. There's one player that I think will give him a run for his money. But there are numerous other players that are in the debate. Zabaleta, we've got one of our own, a former City player. Zabaleta's in the conversation, and I rarely hear him brought up as a quality legend of the Premier League. He's certainly a legend of Manchester City, but is he a legend of the Premier League? Very rarely brought up in conversations, and the things that he would do. He wasn't the most glamorous player. He didn't have the speed of Kyle Walker, but good luck getting past him. And if the ball got past him, you're not getting past him. He would absolutely clatter you. And I loved that about him. City fans adored Zabaleta, the way he played the game, and he just the amount of times we saw him with a headband and his nose facing that way and then half his ear hanging off, and he didn't give a shit, he just kept going. I love that about him, and that type of attitude is rare nowadays. As the modern footballer gets softer and softer, those types of players are a dying breed, and I miss it. I must admit, I miss it. It's entertaining to watch the likes of Zabaleta. But Gary Neville, is he another one? I mean, in terms of accolades, yes, he won trophy after trophy, and I think the whole debate of a player being a good enough player because of the trophies that they won is nonsense, because it's more a reflection of the team that you win. Obviously, you're a good player to get in that team. That's not in question. But what is in question is, are you a quality player because of the medals that you've won? I mean, a lot of players spend their time on the bench and still end up with a huge trophy cabinet compared to the likes of Harry Kane, who hasn't got a single trophy in the world. But there are some strikers out there. I mean, Origi, for example, at Liverpool, has got more accolades than Harry Kane. You're telling me Divock Origi's a better striker than Harry Kane? No, let's not get stupid now. And that's why that whole debate is useless. But Gary Neville as a player was quality. Whether he would fit a modern day fullback, I'm not so sure, because I mean, they asked to bomb it up and down, but his delivery into the box, his crossing ability, but he had no speed. An amazing defender, but I think in the modern day, the way they're asked to play the game now, it was just one touch and cross it for Gary Neville, whereas Kyle Walker's asked to do a lot more than that. Aspilicueta, he's up there, very good defender, amazing one-on-one, but for me, it's Ivanovic. He is the one, for me, that Kyle Walker, those two are the best two right-backs in the league for me, that the Premier League has ever seen. Ivanovic just had goals in him as well. As much as he was a unit, he wasn't slow, extremely quick, you couldn't get past him, and he was a baller. He could actually play the game better than Kyle Walker. But it's Kyle Walker's speed, for me, that stands him above, just probably makes him the best right-back the league's ever seen. But I would give it to Kyle Walker. It's certainly the best right-back, English fullback we've ever seen. But Ivanovic for me he was an immense player. But how much are we going to miss Kyle Walker? With age playing its part, he's on the wrong side of 30. And the likeliness of Pavard coming in, it all hinges on this conversation that Pep Guardiola is yet to have with Kyle Walker. So is he going to sit him down? And I think the first question is, from Kyle Walker, Pep, what formation are you playing next season? What are the likeliness of you playing 4 at the back next season? Are you going to play 3? Are you going to play 4? And if he goes, I'm playing 3 at the back most of the time, and he says, right, I'm off to Bayern then. I think it really is as simple as that, because he's not going to get that minutes that he probably would get at Bayern Munich, where you got Alphonso Davies and Kyle Walker bombing it down those wings. That is a frightening thought for anyone who's going to go up against Bayern Munich, and they are building a team that's looking pretty tasty. You pop Harry Kane up front for that. Bayern Munich are going to be the favourites next year for the Champions League, alongside City and Real Madrid, of course, but I mean, it is between those three for next season's Champions League. How much are we going to miss Kyle Walker? And as much as I love the guy, he had a mistake in him. We can't pretend he didn't. There's two high-profile ones. I remember away to Wigan in the Cup. We got knocked out and we heard, Will Griggs on fire. Your defence is terrifying. All that. Remember that? Kyle Walker gave the ball away, dilly-dallying on the halfway line, and we got knocked out by Wigan. And that was a trophy that we could have gone on and won a double. I think it could have even been a domestic treble that season because we won the league and the League Cup, but we got knocked out of the FA Cup. And we could have won that. And if it wasn't for that mistake, Wigan went on a little bit of a run themselves after that. So that was frustrating. You've got the red card away at RB Leipzig, a 3-game ban. You talk about Kyle Walker in the Champions League and his speed, and yes, he can pocket Vinicius Jr. and Kylian Mbappe, but we don't sign players just to pocket one player in the one game out of the 60-odd games that we're going to play next season. We're not buying a player. Can you? That's the CV. That's one of the questions on your entry interview with a Manchester City manager. Can you stop Vinicius Jr. and Kylian Mbappe? And, oh, no, you can't. Oh, well, we don't want you then. Makes no sense at all. Has absolutely no reflection on the whole course of the season. You've got to look at the grand scheme of things. And then you talk about the Champions League, and yes, Kyle Walker can do that. And he's probably one of 2, 3, maybe, if that, fullbacks in the world that has had a good game against Vinicius Jr. and made them look like the understudy, look like the player that's struggling against Kyle Walker. And yeah, there are very few players that can do what Kyle Walker can do. But he did have that mistake, that RB Leipzig red card, that it wasn't even a rash tackle. He just booted him. He just lost his head, screw fell out, booted him, red card, 3-game ban. And we didn't go on to win that league. We missed him in the next stages of the Champions League as well. I can't remember whether he didn't play in the Real Madrid game, but one of the legs, I don't think he played. And who's to say? Hindsight's a wonderful thing. Hypothetically, we might have done an even better job if he hadn't lost his head in a game that we didn't really need to win, and he just goes and gets himself a red card. So yeah, he had mistakes in him, but that doesn't tarnish what he's done at City and what he could still continue to do, because that conversation's yet to happen. He hasn't left City. We are talking about him like he's already left. But there are elements that we are living off nostalgia now, and I think because of the prospect of Kyle Walker leaving, City fans are now lauding Kyle Walker as the greatest loss in City's recent history in terms of player outgoings. I don't think it will be. I don't think we played him that much last season. He didn't get that many minutes last season, and we still went on to win a treble. We talk about him in the Champions League so often. He didn't play in the Champions League final. We won. There were times where we didn't need him last season. And when we did need him, yeah, he stood out. Absolutely. What a performance he put out against Vinicius Jr. And the year before that, he pocketed Kylian Mbappe. An amazing performance. Yes, I get that. What he can do isn't in question. But there are other questions brought into it about Pavard now. That's really where we're going, and that's the likely replacement, and the rumour of it is a swap deal going the other way. Pavard is such a versatile player and malleable that Pep loves a player that is as malleable as Pavard, as Lahm, as Dani Alves, and yeah, even João Cancelo and those types of players, Rico Lewis. And that's why I think he's fallen out of favour a little bit with Pep Guardiola, because he can't be tucked inside. And the new formation that won as a treble, don't forget that, it won as a treble. Kyle Walker didn't fit in that. I do think he can play as part of a 3 as a centre-back, but we have better players that can do that as well. There are players that can play as centre-backs better than Kyle Walker can. Yes, obviously the speed when he's in right-back and we play 4 at the back. There is no one I would rather have than Kyle Walker right now, and that includes Pavard. I would rather keep Kyle Walker than get Pavard. But the idea of Pavard is, yes, there's someone who can play in that right centre-back role. He can play as a right-back, out-and-out right-back. I even think he can play in defensive midfield and tuck inside alongside Rodri, and doing that Stones role that Stones did so well last season. So for me, I think it could work out well both ways here. I think we could be onto a win-win situation. You keep Kyle Walker. We've got options that we had last season of bringing him on and stopping the likes of Vinicius Jr. Albeit I still don't think that's the only reason to keep Kyle Walker, is to stop one player. But then you bring in Pavard, you've got a player that can be moulded into so many different formations and fits. And he's 27. That's the big one for me. He might not have the speed of Kyle Walker, but he's 27 years old. He's far more technical. The goals that this guy's scored as well. Some of the finishing and his technical ability, playing as an out-and-out centre-back as well at Bayern Munich at times. Some of the diagonal balls that he was just spraying out wide just looked lovely. And then he's got an eye for goal as well, which Kyle Walker does not have. He scored a couple of screamers. I remember one hard and low. I think it was against Sheffield United, in fact, in the Cup about 3 years ago. And that's his former club, his boyhood club as well. But the only issue with Pavard is, has Kyle Walker dropped this on City at the last minute? Because I don't think there was any indication that Kyle Walker wanted to leave. And maybe this was private thoughts between him and his agent as the minutes started to reduce, as the end of last season sort of fizzled out. The minutes also fizzled out for Kyle Walker, and he probably saw his arse at the Champions League final when he was dropped. Well, he wasn't dropped. He was played so well against Real Madrid. And then to not get into the final, I understand that. But you could say the same about Riyad Mahrez, who scored 3 goals against Sheffield United in the semi-final. Then against United, doesn't get a single second against United. So it's a tough one to take when you've played a role in the build-up to getting to the final, and an important one as well, mind you. It's not just a little bit of a cameo. You played a big role and then to not play in the final. But name a player who won't be disappointed when you don't play in the final, and that's what squads are for. He gets a Champions League medal, and he more than deserves one, and I do feel for him for not being able to play. But has he gone to his agent and said, "Now, you know what, I can see where this is going. I'm not a young spring chicken anymore." He's probably coy enough to be aware of where Pep Guardiola's going with his tactics, and he probably is self-aware enough to realise that I'm not going to fit in this system, so I need to go and seek minutes elsewhere. And going to Bayern Munich, I mean, it's not like it's an unbelievable challenge for him and an amazing prospect, and he could quite easily go and get himself another Champions League medal, almost certainly going to get himself another Bundesliga medal, so he's racking up medals going elsewhere, which he could still get at City, of course. It doesn't mean he's finished getting medals at City. We're not finished with the Champions League. I don't see why we can't go and win it back-to-back, because what an achievement that would be, and he would want to be part of that. But would he be a big part of that? Whereas at Bayern Munich, he would be. So I understand the desire, but I do think it all hinges on this conversation. Like I've said already, I think it comes down to Pep Guardiola. What formation are you going to play next season? Are you going to play me, or are you not going to play me? And if you are, I'm here. I'll stay. And I think he might do that. If Pep says yes, then he'll stay. If he doesn't, I think he's on his way, and Pavard could be the other way. But are City being rushed into this decision is the question I wanted to pose to you guys. Is Pavard the only option we could go for? I know it's a like for like in terms of, it's the obvious thing to go for, because we look at Bayern Munich, they've now got a fullback that may no longer, he becomes surplus to requirements because Kyle Walker's come in place, and maybe Pavard suits City in the way Pep wants to play a little bit more. But is there no one else that we could go for? It just seems a bit rushed to me, this decision. Are City being forced into this decision rather than being mindful and taking their time? And I don't think they would do that, City. I don't think they would go into and make a rash decision on a player and just bring someone in on a whim. I don't think they do that. So, questions for you guys. Is Pep Guardiola making the right decision letting Kyle Walker go? Do you see him fitting into the Pep Guardiola system that he played last season? Is Kyle Walker the best right back the Premier League has ever seen? For me, just about behind Ivanovic. And is Pavard the ideal replacement? Get your comments in below, like and subscribe. Typical City is the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now.